within the animal diet, we feed animals a set of ingredients that make up their ration. And those amino acids and those vitamins, generally they are in the ingredients we feed, pretty much, with the exception of vitamin D. But we generally feed those ingredients or feed those elements. But we can't get all of them in. And for a variety of reasons, we add supplementation on top. Some of those ingredients, like I noted vitamin D, we supplement in all animal species at like 100%.
Welcome to the Feed Science Podcast Show. I'm Adam Fahrenholz on behalf of Wisenetics. Thanks for joining us. Whether you be on YouTube or your favorite podcasting app, we certainly appreciate our audience checking in. Please do like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and leave us comments where you think you would like to see more of something or would like a specific topic covered. We do monitor those and are always interested in our feedback. My guest today is a repeat guest to the podcast. Our guest is Lara Moody. Lara is the Executive Director for the Institute for Feed Education and Research, which we refer to as IFEEDER, because otherwise it's a long thing to say over and over again. Lara, thanks for joining us again.
Adam, thanks for having me on. It's always great to join.
Yeah, you bet. If you wouldn't mind, for those that might not remember a little bit about your background and specifically what IFEEDER is and what it is you guys do there, just give us a quick bit of background on that.
Yeah, so quick background for me. I'm actually an agricultural engineer by training. So just remember that when I'm talking in the animal nutrition space. Lara is not an animal nutritionist. However, I have done project coordination and research in the animal space for many years of my career. So IFEEDER is the Institute for Feed Education and Research. We have a mission to advance the understanding and trust in the sustainable animal feed and pet food supply chain through research and education. And so we work very closely with the American Feed Industry Association, and we work with them to advance projects and information exchange relevant to the animal feed industry. And I should say that includes the pet food industry on topics that are of interest to them or that can help them in their advocacy efforts.
Excellent. And, I'm going to go ahead and throw in my own little plug as well from someone who works in academia. We've seen a lot of really great work come out of IFEEDER and its ability to bring stakeholders from the industry in and here are the kinds of things that we need to know more about, that we'd like to see researched, and then get some of that information and the funds, both of which are important, into that academic space and allow various different folks to go and look at things that are that we know are questions the industry has and things like that. So I think it's
Thanks.
It's been a really I can't say enough about how I think it's been a really good way of bringing those two sides together, and so we certainly appreciate it from our perspective.
Evonik Animal Nutrition is committed to ensure food security and safety while reducing the ecological footprint of animal farming. Its products and services use evidence-based solutions that seek to promote animal welfare and reduce reliance on natural resources. All this is underpinned by long-standing industry partnerships and deep customer understanding. Evonik's focus on efficiency, sustainable, healthy nutrition, and collaborations with livestock farming partners creates value for customers and consumers.
I'm excited about our conversation today. What we're going to talk about is concerns about vitamins and amino acids and where they come from and how the supply chain issues can and have and could be of a concern to the animal food industry here, especially in North America. IFEEDER is working on and is releasing an insight or an insight report, I think is the way I said. I'll let you introduce that better than I just did, vitamin and amino acids. And so I'm excited to hear what you guys have found out about that.
Yeah, so let me just start by saying this is the perfect example of a report that IFEEDER has done with clear intention of helping to inform the industry, also helping to inform our stakeholders, and create information that can be shared with the federal agencies, right, who have the potential to work with the industry in this space. And so what we undertook was a strategic assessment of vitamins and amino acids and the potential impact that a disruption could have on the supply chain, but really with a focus towards the impact it could have on national and food security. Because the meat, milk, and egg production is, of course, so close to food security for the U.S., and vitamins and amino acids are key to our ability to produce meat, milk, and eggs. The effort, just by way of a little background, AFIA, the American Feed Industry Association, had a resiliency task force as part of their board of directors last year. And they were talking about vitamins from a resiliency standpoint and the concentration of vitamin production in China. And we'll talk a little bit about that data as we go through, but that's where the conversation started. And then that conversation quickly turned also to amino acids because while amino acids are not as concentrated as much as vitamins are from a production country standpoint yet, there are certainly some indications that it is starting to move that way pretty quickly. And so AFIA and that resiliency task force really needed solid information that they could take. You know, it's one thing to go to the Hill and make points, but things are opinions unless you have facts or data to back it up. And so they came to IFEEDER and said, hey, could you all do a very thorough assessment of the potential impact that vitamins and amino acids have on food security relative to meat, milk, and egg, but also provide us insights that better delineates like what the root of the problem is or how we've gotten to where we are. And so that's what we have. That's what we are rolling out is that report that is going to be available for everyone. A little bit of information when I'm talking about vitamins and amino acids. We were specifically looking at 4 key amino acids, and that's lysine, methionine, threonine, and tryptophan. And then we were looking at 4 vitamins roughly, but really more than that. Mainly we were looking at vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and then the vitamin B complex, which meant we were looking at B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, and B12. So really a little bit more than 4 there, but that kind of collection of B complex. And, you know, within the animal diet, we feed animals a set of ingredients that make up their ration. And those amino acids and those vitamins, you know, generally they are in the ingredients we feed, pretty much, with the exception of vitamin D. But we generally feed those ingredients or feed those elements. But we can't get all of them in. And for a variety of reasons, we add supplementation on top. Some of those ingredients, like I noted vitamin D, we supplement in all animal species at like 100%. So basically all the vitamin D that is coming into an animal is coming in as a supplement. There are other things that we supplement as high as like 30 or 40%, and that would be vitamin A. The amino acids, of course, we can get those amino acids, especially from soybeans, right? There's a good protein, there's a good amino acid characteristics within that. But we supplement, you know, we provide roughly, if we look across all animal species, 20% of the methionine in an animal's diet is coming from a supplement. 10% of the lysine in an animal's diet is coming from a supplement. Of course, that's looking across all species. It's higher or lower in certain species, but that's why this is so important to us.
Yeah, and so as you talk about there, and as you just said, it's certainly important. From what you guys have found, can you describe to me there are 2 things that are important in my mind as we look at vitamins and amino acids. Well, there's a lot, but one is the ability for us to make animal foods economically, right? Like you just said, we can get amino acids from other sources, plant sources. We can get it from soybean meal and whatnot. But if we have to get to the most limiting amino acid all from something like soybean meal, we are going to overfeed soybean meal. We are going to overfeed protein. We are going to overfeed those other amino acids to get to where we meet our most limiting, which means that the use of something like synthetic amino acids is in some ways a cost idea. Hey, this allows us to formulate diets that are economical, that are efficient, that aren't leading to sustainability issues where we've got excess nitrogen in feces, all this other kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think excess, right? It's not only about cost, it also allows us not to feed in excess.
That's right, exactly. And then on the vitamins are a little different because we will struggle to get a lot of those vitamins, and some of them, like I said, like vitamin D, we can't anyway. But even the other ones, there isn't even an opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to. Sometimes there may be a vitamin in a particular feedstuff that we provide, but if that feedstuff sits for too long or it gets a little too warm, right? There's the quality of that is also becomes a challenge, right? So again, it's the consistency that we're trying to get in the feeding system, and that's the reason that we supplement.
And so I guess my question a little bit is, what have you guys learned about the importance of vitamin and amino acids as it relates to our feeding system and the efficiency and the economics of it? And what have you guys learned about the importance of it just straight related to animal health and the ability for these animals to grow and us to have food?
Yeah, so I think the best way to answer that question is to do an example or to talk through an example. All right.
Please, yeah.
So let's say lysine in the swine diet. So for market hogs, we supplement lysine on average. And again, we worked with a consultant and they talked to industry members and nutrition experts, right? And they put together what I would say is a representative industry diet. So we recognize there's variabilities in the diet from North Carolina to Iowa, but we have a kind of a national representative industry diet. We say lysine is supplemented about 21.5%. Lysine, super important, right, to the animal species. We've just talked about it as to why we supplement, but it helps us with growth and reproduction and various biological factors. And it's a key piece of production efficiency, feed conversion efficiency. So in that, then, we, in the assessment, we put together a series of key performance indicators for market hogs. So things like average daily feed intake, the feed conversion ratio, body weight gain, average daily gain, back fat thickness, lean percentage, belly fat, meat yield per animal, mortality, right? So they looked at all these KPIs, and then they said, if we have 100% supplementation, here's what that looks like. And if we take that supplementation down to zero, we take away that 20% that we're supplementing, then what does it start to look like for the animal, right? Again, we don't get all the way to zero for lysine because some of that's still coming in as feed ingredients. But if we just take away the supplementation, what does that look like? And so as an example, so something that would make sense to people, this is the one that makes the most sense to me thinking about it. So time to market. On average, we have at 100% supplementation of lysine, 131 days to market for a market hog in production. If we take supplemental lysine away, that goes up to 174 days.
Okay.
You can just start to think about the implications of that, right? Similarly, and so why does that happen? Well, if we look at the average feed intake at 100% supplementation, it's 5 pounds per day. But we take away lysine supplementation and we go down to 3.6 pounds per day. Body weight gain. We go from 276 pounds down to 196 pounds. So you can see the potential impact that this could have if we take away lysine supplementation. And so that's all, that's very important. We've talked about the things like why we do this, why do we supplement with lysine, feed cost, ration optimization, production efficiency, but there are real implications, right? If we remove those from the diet. Now, you can modify a diet. So we could, as we said, there are ingredients that contain lysine. To be able to modify the diet, we looked at that. You can decrease corn. So we can take corn out of the diet and make room to put in high protein soybean meal. And we can make room to put in more corn DDGs. And we also have to increase whey. That's one of the elements that helps us get to lysine. So we can do that. But if we do that, it has the potential to increase the feed cost up to 6.5% per ton. Right? In a production system that is a bit of a commoditized production system that relies on efficiency, increasing feed costs by 6% per ton is pretty significant. And so that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Now, I also said we need high protein soybean meal, whey and corn DDGs. Well, if everybody in the swine market suddenly decides to increase the use of those materials, not even just the hog market, right? If we lose lysine, we're losing it across all species. So if everybody has to make that replacement up all at one time, then the cost of those ingredients may go up, the availability of those ingredients may go down. And so this is just theoretically, we could modify the diet. And if we modify the diet at current availability and current pricing for those ingredients, we would increase the cost. But that doesn't kind of look at what could happen, right? If then some of those ingredients became a little bit more scarce. Yeah. So those are the implications from an animal production standpoint. That's for lysine. I could give you more examples. You want a vitamin example?
Yeah. Let me reintroduce you. And yeah, why not? My guest today is Lara Moody. Lara is the executive director for the Institute for Feed Education and Research, and we're talking about their release report on the vitamin and amino acid supply chain and what some of our concerns are of when there might be disruption. So yeah, let's jump into what's a good example of vitamins.
So vitamins, vitamin A. We currently, again, we're talking about kind of a national representative industry diet, recognizing there are some regional differences. But generally, the representative diet they put together would indicate that we supplement vitamin A at about 67% in a turkey diet. The main way we get to vitamin A, we get a lot of vitamin A through forages, right? That's where we get vitamin A from. If we were then to start looking at, so similar to what we were just talking about for hogs, we can do the same type of assessment of key performance indicators for turkeys. And so here we were looking at, again, things like body feed conversion, body weight gain, average daily gain, but also the impact on percent breast yield, or the impact on meat yield per animal, or foot pad lesions, right? Things that are not just related to production, but also to the animal health and welfare of the animal. And so something like foot pad lesions, which are key to the healthy production of animals in a production system, that could increase from 6% to 22% as we take away the supplementation of vitamin A. That's pretty significant. We also would see something like time to market go from 127 days to 167 days. We would see meat yield per bird, the percentage of meat yield we get off each animal, go from 62% down to 28%. So, I mean, those numbers are real when we think about them from the potential impact on food security.
So I want to ask you about, before we close this out, I do want to ask you about that impact on food security. So what is going to be done with this report? What's going to be communicated from it? Before I do, though, I'm also curious, what is the perspective on how these disruptions might occur, and how that plays into it? Things, we obviously had a worldwide pandemic. We have weather events. We've got trade that can cause an issue. We could potentially have an intentional removal from the marketplace by someone who says, we think it's going to be beneficial for us to no longer sell this to you. How do those things play into kind of the assessment of how bad the disruptions could be?
Yeah, I think so. Let's go back. Let's just stick to the examples that we had, right? So let's think vitamin A first, right? We were just talking about vitamin A. Vitamin A, generally, we have fairly good diversity of suppliers for vitamin A right now. That has definitely gone down over in recent years, but roughly 50+% of all the vitamin A that we're importing into the US as of 2023 was coming from China. Okay. So about half of our imports for vitamin A were coming from China. However, in 2022, 2023, where China has been the least cost supplier to the US in recent years. In 2024, China was suddenly 64% less than the top 5 other entities that we imported from.
Wow. Okay.
And that's repeated across multiple vitamins across the board. So that's not just vitamin A, that's happening across all ingredients. There are some other vitamins that we see coming from China, like cobalamin or some of the other B vitamins, where China is the only producer of those vitamins, right? And so that has the potential to be a significant impact. Lysine is another one of those exampple. So lysine, we get... let's see, I'm trying to come up with my number for lysine. Lysine is pretty much 100% coming from China right now. I'd love to tell you what the difference is from China to the top 5 suppliers, but there are no other suppliers. So we really only have one number, and that's coming from China. So when you think about those types of scenarios where we either only have one supplier that we import from, or we have a handful, but China is coming in way below the other suppliers on price, that creates a change in the marketplace. The other thing that's happening is that for many of our ingredients, we look at the global production capacity, right? So if all the producers in the world for vitamin A were producing, that would be the global production capacity. And right now, for a lot of the vitamins, our utilization rate of that capacity is in the 30, 40, 50% range.
Okay.
So that means there's a lot of producers that are not economically producing vitamins, right? Because they are so far under what their production capacity is. Our consultants that worked with us said that a good production utilization capacity is 80%. So if all the vitamins are in the 40 to 50% range, we're well below that. And we see China continuing to bring on production, which just further pulls that utilization capacity down. And so those are the types of things that are happening. IFEEDER, we're a 501c3. We do not do policy work, but we do generate information that AFIA can use for policy. And so AFIA is in the process of organizing and discussing with the federal agencies and White House options for actions that can be taken or ways that we can potentially mitigate. And so I think if somebody wants to dive into that, it would be great at some point in time to have an AFIA policy person come on and speak to that a little bit. It could be really interesting for you guys to hear that piece of it once the report gets out and we have this information that we're putting out for stakeholders to be aware of.
Right. I was going to say that's the other side of this, right? Is that you put reports out like this, and certainly the trade associations that have a responsibility for lobbying and for informing administration and informing on trade and things like that, can use this. And this is going to be something that a number of different trade associations, not only in the feed industry and pet food industry, but also kind of in the other allied industries, because as you said, in our particular world, all of these things have domino effects, right? Like things that happen, while it might sound good on the without thinking through all of the potential negative impacts on food security and everything else. But if you're, Soybean Growers Association kind of a thing, or U.S. Soy, and you're like, well, I mean, yeah, they use more of our product. Well, yeah, except for we'd have to use so much more of your product that we would potentially destroy other markets and the ability to export and everything else. And so everybody cares. And so there are a number of lobbying and trade associations that care. But the other really nice thing, because of the way that IFEEDER puts these reports out, is so do all the consumers can all see them, and the companies that are making feed and the animal production companies all can see these, which now they can be informed in either going to their own, local and state and federal government officials themselves, or putting pressure on the trade associations, right? Because this isn't just something that you guys produce that AFIA gets to see.
Yeah. And I would say one key piece, of course, this report is rolling out and it's a 200-page report. It's dense. It's a lot.
Yeah.
However, we are in the process of creating sub-reports that are species and sector specific. So be on the lookout for those. If you're within the turkey sector, there will be a turkey report that highlights the relevance to the turkey industry and talks specifically to the ingredient challenges in that space. The same for all the other species. So we recognize not everybody wants to read the report 10 times, as I think I'm up to now, but that we are going to create some sub-reports and make it easier for people to digest so that they can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Very, very cool. That'll certainly be helpful, because you're right. Everybody sit and read. You got to really love data to read through the full 200 pages.
Yes.
For sure. All right. Well, I think that completes our time here. I like I said, I was excited about this conversation. I'm excited to actually take some time, and I'm one of the people that wants to look at the numbers. I think this stuff's a lot of fun to look at. So I'm looking forward to having the time to sit down with it as well. Laura, I really appreciate your time and your insights, and appreciate the work you guys are doing to help the animal food industry, and then all of the consumers out there that benefit from the animal food industry. I think it's really important work, and it's been really beneficial. So I want to say thank you for that.
Thanks so much for having me on again. And let me just give a shout out. If anybody's looking for the report, they'll be able to find it on www.ifeeder.org. And that'll be available. And we're happy to answer questions or help people sort through it as they start reading it. So great to be on. And thanks for letting us talk a little bit about that report today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right. Once again, this has been the Feed Science Podcast Show. Thanks for listening and watching. And again, like, subscribe, all of those things. Let us know what you like, what you'd like to hear more of. And until then, I'm Adam Fahrenholz, coming to you from North Carolina State University, and we will talk to you the next time.